What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. So apparently the RPG horror story subreddit has went down apparently over the last couple of days. According to one of the moderators, basically none of the moderators were active, so it was some sort of a Reddit's failsafe system that just kind of made it private for a split second. Although I did catch some of the rumors about like the owner fired one of the chief moderators and the moderator retaliated back or something. Anyway, if the RPG horror story does go down at any time at any point, if you still want to send in and submit your personal RPG horror stories to me, I do have an email down the links below for every single video. Well, almost every single video. Anyway, you have ways to contact each other at least, so we could still talk about different RPG horror stories. Speaking of, let's get some for today. GM and his girlfriend bully a player. So I've been running games, various TTRPGs, most of them online, for a while. A year or so ago, a friend of mine who I've been in game with before approached me about wanting to start a game of Pokemon Tabletop United, or PTU for short. I enjoy Pokemon, so asked if I could join as a player, to which he happily agreed. Let's call him Robert from here on out. Robert also invited his then girlfriend, now fiance, into the game, who we'll call Vicky. Robert also invited another fellow player from a different game and a good friend of mine to play as well. Let's call her Miranda. And so the game of PTU begins. I'm not cool with giving everybody initials. I much prefer the word names, Robert, Vicky, and Miranda. I probably shouldn't be thinking of such complicated names like Miranda. Like at the end of the day, it's not that complicated, but if I'm like reading along and I'm like, what I call her? Mary, Miranda, Mesanthropolis, I don't know, man. I can't think of names. I suck at names. I suck at remembering names. I shouldn't be giving them complicated names. Anyway, we have Robert, Vicky, and Miranda. Honestly, I should have called him Rick in case he's a dick. Then we can be like Rick the Dick. But you know what? Let's just call him Robert. I'm dumb, dude. Why do I say the things that I say? Why do you watch me? Why do you find this entertaining? For a while, things are fine, with the occasional hiccup or mistakes, since we, including the GM, were all new to the system. Miranda is really good at remembering all the rules, so Robert relied on that sometimes. Vicky was a bit cold to Miranda, but I thought nothing of it at the time. Another year or so though, Robert confessed to being burned out from running such high-effort game and needed a break. Fully understandable. Being a GM myself, offered to run a mini campaign for PTU while Robert recovered, with him, Vicky, and Miranda as players. They all happily agreed. And again, for a while things were fine. I even brought in a fourth player, Kyle. Unfortunately, things started getting worse here. Vicky started to be really mean to Miranda in character, and later claims it was all in character roleplay. I'll let it slide. That was my first mistake. If it's in roleplay, I'm assuming then both players will be having fun. Let's say, for example, I don't know, me and Micah. When we go and banter as myself and Micah as Micah in game, we do that because it's just fun for us. For us, whenever we get to banter and be like our grouchy selves and like almost like a grouchy merry couple, just like banter together and sometimes crap talk each other, to us, we're having a blast. I'm giggling my ass off, Mike is giggling his ass off, we're having a blast, having a good time with it, because we are playing out our characters' personalities in character, but we are very much self-aware of what's going on and are in on the joke. It'd be much different if I'm already forgetting the names already. It would be much different if Vicky and Miranda were in on a joke and were in on that sort of bit going on and we're just playing it up as a performance, just having fun, having silly old roleplay fun. But if Vicky is the only one that's role-playing while Miranda is not, and she doesn't know what's going on whatsoever, and Vicky is the only one getting in on this joke of theirs, then I don't think it's really like roleplay. I think maybe Vicky has resentment for Miranda. Maybe it's because Miranda remembers all the rules to help Robert during the game and stuff. Or maybe it's just jealousy because another woman is at the table. Oh, spooky scary, another woman is at the table. It actually can happen. Some women, I've met some women that get threatened by other women at their TTRPG spaces because they want to be, well, for better or worse, a pick-me. They want to be the only one, the super special snowflake at the table, and they get threatened whenever another woman muscles into their territory. It happened at least 3 or 4 times that I've seen it, which is way too much for what it should be. Both in TTRPG spaces spaces and VR chat roleplay spaces, which is crazy to me. It's insane. It's not, but some people think like their specific territory, their little group is the stomping ground, and if somebody comes in with competition, suddenly they're the enemy for them. I was on that end as well. The point I'm trying to say is some people out there will generally look at you like competition instead of just another person that would join in for their group, or they get resentment or jealousy, or suddenly feel like, I don't know, like you muscling into those space or something, and it's not cool. It's not okay. Now, is that what's going on in this story? Well, honestly, I'm kind of jumping to conclusions, but let's find out what's going on with Vicky. Unfortunately, it became a recurring theme for Vicky not getting along with Miranda, to the point of being really mean to her. I asked Kyle as a player what he thought of all this, and we concluded that if it was in roleplay and no one was actually upset at the end, there was no real harm, right? Wrong. Miranda started slowly feeling like Robert and Vicky disliked her as a person. I said, surely not, otherwise they wouldn't be playing games with you. Wrong again. Because even when Robert's game started back up, the hostility towards Miranda's character continued, this time from Robert too. The atmosphere in both games slowly started to grow more sour each session. By this point, Vicky had been mean to Miranda in character on multiple occasions, outright bullying her in game. Robert had stayed cordial, but was rude to her out of character, saying things that genuinely crossed a line. Okay, well, if your DM is being a dickhead towards you, you probably shouldn't play with him because he clearly has some sort of a weird issue going on. I'm gonna just wildly assume that Vicky just didn't like that Miranda was muscling in on her group, her territory, her turf or something. Maybe it was getting too chummy with Robert and started, I don't know, gaslighting Robert, saying, Miranda's here just to make the game worse and stuff. She's gonna try to do something for you. You shouldn't treat her so nice. You should be more mean towards her. It could be that maybe Robert himself is just a dickhead or something. I have no idea. Could be that Vicky influenced all this. Maybe it's something that Miranda did behind the lines. Honestly, we have no idea. My guess is Vicky doesn't like Miranda getting chummy with people and muscling on her territory or something, because Vicky might be a pick-me potentially, and because people are spending more attention or just giving attention to any other woman other than Vicky, then maybe that's what's going on. When I wanted to start a different game at some point with the same group as players, Miranda wanted a pet moth for her ranger, and Vicky kept joking about eating the moth. When she told to stop because it was genuinely upsetting Miranda, Vicky got angry instead, because she wasn't allowed to make her joke anymore. Eventually, I had to take a break for personal reasons. When I was ready to run PTU again though, I questioned whether I actually wanted to continue or not. By this point, I confronted Robert and Vicky about their behavior, and they had admitted to feeling neutral towards Miranda, tolerating her presence for the sake of their game. I asked Kyle his opinion, and we agreed that merely tolerating a player for a game is not a good base for a TTRPG group. Kyle also informed me that Robert had been genuinely cruel to Miranda out of character, had brushed it off as a joke. I'd noticed similar behavior from Vicky out of character towards Miranda. I decided I wasn't going to let it slide anymore. Tolerating over... What did Miranda even do? What kind of heinous things is Miranda doing behind the scenes that they have to tolerate her to the table just so they can continue their game? I have no idea. Listen, look, there are crazy things going on. Either Vicky and Robert are just being bullies to Miranda, or maybe there's some sort of 4D chess happening behind the scenes where Miranda is like this evil mastermind BBEG type of character that is like twisting and turning people against each other, and she's like maybe plotting behind the scenes saying, if I leave, I'm taking everybody else with me, so you better make sure you tolerate my presence at least and let me play. I don't know. Listen, we've seen crazier stories. Sometimes the easiest explanation is a simpler one, and I'm kind of leaning onto this, but you never really know. Unless they give me some sort of examples where Miranda is going to do something crazy, I refuse to believe that Miranda is doing anything particular, at least nothing that we've seen so far. I mean, I'm kind of only halfway through the story, so I'm just kind of rambling for the sake of rambling. I'm just theory crafting on this story, y'all. Either way, there's one thing about getting along with a player, and there's another thing about having to tolerate a player. If you're tolerating a player, it sounds like you're going through some sort of a mild level of torture, and you're annoyed with the player's presence, but you have to keep them there because otherwise everything is gonna go tits up or something. I don't see any of my players as I'm tolerating them. I see that I can get along with all of my players, and I genuinely like everybody at my virtual table. I would never look at a player. If I have to look at a player and say, I need to tolerate this person, then I probably don't need to tolerate this person. I probably need to remove him from the game. Because if I can't get along with somebody and I have to tolerate them and stomach them, why would I do that? It's my game. I could choose who I want to play with or who don't want to play with. Why do you have to choose? Why do you have to stomach somebody? Why do you have to tolerate somebody? I understand tolerating someone's pet peeves or behaviors and stuff, or sometimes when I go a little bit too bonkers. But if you need to tolerate an entire individual, I think you got a bigger problem going on here. I sent Robert and Vicky similar texts about how I'd noticed the atmosphere of the PTU games had soured, and I was wondering about their input to a possible solution. Vicky got angry and defensive, claiming her choice in characters were valid. I pushed for the reason why, and it turns out Vicky had had a bad experience with Miranda before, and didn't believe Miranda had grown from it since. Vicky continued to play games with someone she tolerates at best and genuinely dislikes at worst because she liked the game more than she hated Miranda. That's not an explanation in the slightest. That's like the weakest argument ever. You don't like him from something they did in the past, so you're just gonna continue being mean and bullying them for consistently over and over because you don't think they're gonna remember or like change from what they did something in the past. If it's a problem that's at the table, why don't you talk to the player or talk to the DM and figure it out? If you can't get along with somebody at the table, then why are you constantly using this as an excuse to just continue bullying the person and being mean to them? If you can't stomach a person at the virtual table or physical table, then something needs to change. Maybe you need to talk to the DM and try to get this resolved, or maybe you should probably leave and step away. Robert stayed calm but defensive, saying it wasn't my right to know, that it was business between Robert, Vicky, and Miranda that I had no place in. I disagreed because their clear dislike of Miranda was bleeding over into my game and upsetting Miranda, making it my business. Robert didn't take that well and simply suggested ending the game, refusing to take accountability for any of his actions instead. This rubbed me the wrong way. Oh yeah, 100% there's some sort of bad blood going on here, dude. This gives me the kind of vibes of like something is happening, there's some sort of drama happening behind the scenes, and Robert and Vicky just absolutely hate Miranda, either for something arbitrary or maybe something that Vicky put onto Robert, some sort of crazy idea or gaslighting, or maybe Miranda, I don't know, some sort of like a psycho-terrorist that burned down a puppy orphanage or something. I'm going to go with the former, not the latter, until we have evidence. I talked to Vicky again, directing my opinion this time, to which she called me crying out of anger. I wish I could say I didn't cave and switch to trying to de-escalate, but I did. Robert later texted me that making his fiancée cry was something he couldn't forgive. Now, we were no longer friends. I took that as an opportunity to be brutally honest, which he again did not take well. I burned that bridge with the fire he started, blocked them both, ended my game, and Robert ended his, kicking me out of any other games of his that I was in. Talked to Miranda, apologizing profusely for not taking action sooner. After all, as a GM, player safety is my duty, and I failed to do that. Miranda was instead relieved, because she thought herself paranoid and thinking Robert and Vicky hated her. Was relieved to know she wasn't paranoid, they just outright hated her. Miranda, Kyle, and I are friends to this day, but if I learned anything about this whole situation is that I need to not tolerate bullying behavior both in character and out of character, and if I do notice it, nip that crap in the bud immediately. I thought I was already doing this until it actually happened, and it turned out I wasn't. There's so many RPG horror stories we've read where people really do nothing even though they notice something weird going on. Kudos on you, OP, for actually speaking up and trying to like put this thing in the right place. Both as a DM, a player, and just a participant in this whole kerfuffle. It definitely isn't easy, definitely not trying to confront people and try to call them out on things that are clearly going on that are bad at the table. But unless Miranda is some sort of a homewrecker, puppy orphanage, terrorist or some such, I genuinely don't see any kind of reason why Robert can't just explain to you exactly what's going on. Maybe if let's say, for example, with some sort of like a drama related to, I don't know, romance or something, it wouldn't be that difficult for Robert to just explain. It's like, yeah, Vicky and Miranda got in a tizzy and Miranda was trying to like hook up with me or something. If that was the case, it wouldn't be that difficult to explain it, but I personally think that maybe Robert doesn't have an explanation, because Vicky probably put something in his mind that to just like dislike Miranda for some reason, but he can't explain himself. I mean, of course, Robert is entitled to his privacy and stuff, but it wouldn't be that difficult to explain that maybe they had some sort of a fight, Vicky and Miranda. Maybe there was a tizzy, maybe some sort of other stuff going on. Explain it in vague enough terms, but at least explain enough about some of the resentment and why you're tolerating the player instead of just kicking the player outright. Because if Miranda did something absolutely horrendous and horrible, what is the point of tolerating her at the table? Remove her from the table and move on from there. If people leave, oh well. well. Find other people to replace them. I see no reason why they needed to tolerate Miranda while also consistently bullying her at the table and being mean to her in character and out of character without her even knowing what the hell is going on. The fact that she doesn't even know what the hell is happening and she was actually going crazy thinking they hate her without when they don't say they hate her is also kind of wild, which means I don't think Miranda was even involved in this whole thing. She was just a target for the sake of being a target, probably because Vicky doesn't like Miranda for one reason or another. And I'm gonna guess, wildly enough, it's not that weird for me to make wild assumptions out there, but my genuine guess is Vicky is a pick-me, and apparently another woman stepping into the table and interacting with her GM fiance is maybe perhaps threatening to her because she now has to compare herself to another woman instead of just being normal and playing the damn game. Anyway, what are your thoughts in the comments below? Maybe there's some sort of detail that I missed here. I'm gonna get to the next story for today. DM's DMPC is a god. We're just the side characters. I want to start off this story by saying this was my first ever experience with D&D. TLDR at the end for the people who don't want to read the whole post, I got you. I want to start off this story by saying this was my first ever experience with the D&D. I had no prior exposure to D&D, so I thought everything DM done was normal at a table. Oh boy, how wrong I was. So this happened back in 2021. We were fresh out of lockdown and starving for some friend time. One of my friends, we'll call him Big Tat, owns a tattoo shop and tells us his apprentice was wanting to run a D&D campaign. So myself and 4 of my friends decided to join. They are as follows: Paladin, longtime player in previous group. Paladin, a longtime player and previous group DM, kind of the dad figure to us newer players. Monk, longtime D&D fan, especially Critical Role. Warlock, the wisecracking and Monk's boyfriend, now husband. Bard, Big Tat, that was his first time playing D&D too. And finally me, playing a reborn sorceress who had just been sacrificed to the Raven Queen, but brought back for reasons you'll find out later. I just wrote it that she had unfinished business, but the DM had other plans. A reborn sorcerer sacrificed to a Raven Queen? Yo, that sounds kinda sick actually. I may have to steal that concept, that's so sick actually. Anyway, let's continue. So we got together and began our story. Our DM proudly proclaimed that we would be playing through Princes of the Apocalypse, and that not to worry as he knew the story was pretty bare bones, but he had a way to flesh it out. The way he decided to flesh it out, you might ask, was with his DMPC Echo. And let me tell you, Echo was about to become our worst nightmare. For you see, Echo wasn't just a DMPC, he was a character our DM had been sitting on for quite some time. He was actually writing a whole book series about him, unbeknownst to us. And he would go on long tangents mid-game to tell us about all the awesome and cool things Echo could do. I remember once just straight up asking him, so what exactly is Echo's class? And I kid you not, the DM said something to the effect of, oh, Echo doesn't have a class. He's far beyond that in terms of power. Oh, my DMPC, super awesome, cool character, he's way better than anything else. He's far beyond having a class. Classes, levels, feats, psh, my character's way better than that. He can do these amazing, incredible things, and he's the bestest character ever, and everybody loves him, and he's a great hero of the world. That's how it goes with most DMPCs, where DMs that specifically make the DMPC so powerful and the bestest ever, the Mary Sue and the Gary Stews of DMPC universe. Honestly, imagine a cinematic universe with all the terrible, worst, awful DMPCs out there. Man, that'd be a disaster I would love to observe, just experiencing through a total colossal meltdown. It would be like watching The Room, but the room is on fire and everything is on fire and everything is exploding and dying and everything is horrible. Anyway, definitely nothing is gonna happen with having a great, super awesomest, bestest NPC ever DMPC hero Echo that's definitely not gonna overshadow the party. Foreshadowing is a literary device. I can't say literary. Anyway, our party all met and desired to travel together. It gets to night, and we decide to stop and make camp. We set up a watch rotation, and the first person to take watch was me. As I'm making my rounds, a mysterious dark-coated figure approaches from the shadows. I naturally ask them who they are and what they're doing here. The figure then lunges forward and attacks my level 1 sorcerer. Commotion wakes up the rest of the party, and we'll roll for initiative. Our monk rolls high and gets to go first, landing a good blow. Then our paladin steps up to the mark and strikes the enemy. Our warlock goes next and sends Eldritch Blast towards the foe. It was then the DM's turn. With a grin, he describes how like a shadow of death, this man slices through our monk, paladin, and warlock effortlessly, leaving them unconscious in one swoop. He then points his sword at Bard and me. It's my turn next, and I do what I think is a logical thing to do. Put my hands up to surrender, ask him what is it that he wants. He simply replies, "This is a test, my dear, and you have all failed." Bard goes next. He goes to attack, but is stabbed and left unconscious along with the rest. But, surprise everyone, it was only a shared dream. Oh my god, this is a disaster. I love to hate it already. To say that I love it would be a complete lie, but I love to hate how disastrous this is. So, we have this super cool, awesome, edgy Shadow the Hedgehog analog coming through. They slice and dice through everybody effortlessly, leave them all bleeding out and unconscious, and then go like, "Huh, this is a test, and you failed it, Datibayo." God, it's so cringe. It's so potently cringe. I'm beginning to sweat, but also smile from the potency of it. I love cringe like this. This kind of stuff makes me so happy and so disgusted to read it because it's just abhorrent amount of cringe. I love it. And to top it all off, surprise, it was a shared dream. Because how else are you gonna try to move this story along with everybody else down in the party? Why DM gotta throw some sort of random tests for no reason in the slightest without any explanation whatsoever? We all wake the next morning to find the hooded man in camp making us all breakfast with a wide grin on his face. I could tell that Monk and Warlock in particular were unimpressed with the shenanigans that had just happened. But we proceeded anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna try to be constructive and not just mock the DM. If you want to introduce a DMPC, introduce a DMPC in such a way, or NPC, DMPC, whatever, any side character, introduce them in such a way where they're not attacking the party in the middle of the night when they're trying to be on watch, trying to make sure they're not being snuck up on with some sort of monster or crazy murderer. If you make your NPC likable and meeting in such a regular way without being weird and creepy and off, then yeah, you probably have a better interaction. But if some weird creep just comes out at night when I'm supposed to be on night watch, yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit cautious because why they're approaching the campfire without addressing themselves and then start attacking the rest of the party and try to attack everybody else and try just why they're assaulting the party in the first place. That wouldn't give party any sort of trust. If you want to introduce an NPC that is actually helpful and can be like on amicable terms, I don't know, make him not be a creepy weirdo that comes out at night trying to attack the party for no reason. That's stupid. Also, don't do these stupid tests. Don't do like, "This was a test and you failed," because that's really dumb. That's absolutely stupid. That means you basically setting up a DC check for the rest of your party to know what you are thinking in your crazy mind, DM. Let the mechanics be the DC checks. Don't be the DC check. If you are a difficulty check at the table, then you're playing it wrong. The mysterious man then introduced himself as Echo, and Echo is a, hold on to your hats for this, time-traveling, multiverse-hopping, wormhole-riding, reality-bending, all-knowing, super-duper edgy and cool god. And he needs our level 1 party to help save the world or something. Me being new to D&D, I thought this was cool. I immediately became infatuated with Echo and would ask him lots of questions, but DM just absolutely lapped up. The rest of the party were less than impressed. There were just concerns raised, but DM assured us that Echo would just be a bystander as we were the real heroes. The most unfortunate thing is that this is your first time experiencing D&D and you're just kind of rolling with it because you think this is just how it's supposed to be. Oh, just how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be able to meet cool gods immediately, and it's cool and awesome and stuff. Yeah, it's cool to meet gods in D&D, but also there's the element of choosing your own story and your own adventure, and then having the world react instead of just things be forced on you and forced into a railroad. Because this is a railroad. This is a DMPC railroad, and the only way we can proceed is if you follow the choo-choo train that is this stupid DMPC. And yes, he is stupid because he's like bestest ever. If you make it a DMPC that is overshadowing the party, you're already failing as a GM. And in 6 months IRL passed and we had done 0 of the actual objectives of the POTA, and just being Echo's servants, fetching him items, finding his lost relatives, and just meaningless tasks. And everything we'd done had 0 impact on anything, as it was like we were playing characters from one of the DM's books, and it was the Echo Shell. Eventually the bubble burst, and it came to a head one night during a level 20 one-shot. We had been combat starved for weeks, so I suggested we do a level 20 one-shot and done a full-blown boss rush relay. Everyone was excited and on board, as it was just meant to be us 4 facing off against progressively harder and harder enemies. It was meant to be Echo free, but of course DM couldn't help himself, and Echo popped into the pocket dimension we had been sucked into and scolded us, saying we were wasting time and that the real fight was happening in our world. Apparently, the moment we stepped into level 20 one-shot Pocket Dimension was the exact moment that the actual story of the campaign started, and the princes of the apocalypse were released and wreaking havoc in our world. Imagine you want to take a break for a stupid dumb DMPC and you can't even do so because the DM is so infatuated. They can't help themselves. They're just stroking their own ego constantly. It's just, oh yeah, Echo-san. Oh yeah, please. Let's have more Echo-san everywhere. It's just such a wanker kind of thing to do. I don't even use the word wanker. That's such a British thing to do. Blame Mary. But that's a wanker thing. They're just wanking off their own wanker of a DMPC wanker, basically. This Echo character is just a big old wiener and nobody wants to deal with it. It's just ugly to be around. It's ugly to look at. Nobody wants to have it anywhere in the room. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to think about it. He's just like he's just a sore. He's just an eyesore for everybody at the party, both enthusiastically and for this entire campaign. Basically, DM was trying to press fast forward on our level 21 shot so we could go back outside and play with Echo again, but we were having none of it. We told Echo to shove off and we'd be back once we're done here. So what did the DM do in order to force us back? He power word killed our paladin, had an enemy one-shot my sorcerers, and dispatched the rest of the party in various ways. Echo then reappeared, brought herself back to life, killed the remaining enemies, and with a snap of his fingers, brought us back to our world. That was the final straw. The campaign was very unceremoniously came to an end after that, with everyone basically saying we were bored AF of the campaign and of Echo. Oh, and remember how earlier I mentioned that my character was brought back to life by the Raven Queen because she had unfinished business? Well, the DM decided that wasn't enough. Not only was I his other DMPC's love interest, Bulk I know, but I was also Echo's long-lost great-great-great-granddaughter, and I was a secret god. I was mortified. You make a cool character and a stupid DM decides to write over some nonsense just to conveniently place the most important part, his DMPC, into the main limelight. You just become an accessory. You become like a ring or like, I don't know, a bracelet basically. You become an accessory to somebody else's cool super epic storyline. Having a DMPC in a campaign can be a proper payoff, especially if they support the party, but if they make everything trivial, such as how Echo was able to just miraculously instantly revive the party and eradicate all the other enemies, then what's the point of having the party there in the first place? What is the point to having them there if Echo is just going to be stroking their own ego? Is the party supposed to help with that ego stroking the whole time too? Is that what their intended existence becomes? Just to be Echo's ego stroker, just so the DM can feel like, oh my god, my character's so cool and awesome and everything, and everybody loves him and serves him. Nah, this is a horrible way to do a DMPC. This is a terrible way to do a DMPC. Do not make a DMPC, okay, to make it a little more productive, do not make a DMPC that's gonna make everything trivial for the rest of the party, because that is dumb as fuck. The party needs to go through their own trials and tribulations to be able to do stuff. It's not a problem having an NPC or DMPC, whatever term you like to use, that can be an assistant for the party. Like maybe somebody that can be a temporary frontliner if, let's say, the tank is gone from the party, or a temporary healer if the healer is gone from the party, what have you. But if you just shove in your DMPC just so they could overshadow the party and try to be the bestest ever that's a god and above class levels and can wipe out everybody in a snap of a finger, then what is the point of the party being prevalent in everything here if Echo could just do everything himself? Echo clearly shows that they can do anything they want. Resurrect people at will, destroy people at will. What is the point for Echo to have the party involved with them other than to stroke the big fat dumb ego? None. And that's unfortunately why you guys were left into this horrible campaign and this horrible game where you have to deal with Echo, the horrible DMPC main character self-insert, probably self-insert. I'm betting it's a self-insert in some capacity. This isn't a game, this is just an ego stroke. And you don't want to play in a game where just the DM is just going to stroke their ego about the greatest DMPC ever. Because that's stupid, that's dumb. At least you guys were smart enough to be able to say, nope, we're not doing this, we're not dealing with this because this is stupid, and leave the game. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.